Hi, I'm Vansh, and the reason you cannot get rid of pornography is because you do not know the reason why it's there in the first place. Pornography is a symptom and not the inherent problem. You need to solve the inherent problem. Let's learn about that. The reason you keep using pornography is because you do not know how to cope effectively with your problems. Let's say you got something like homework, or it could be school in general, it could be teachers or friends or job or anything else, right? The thing is that the possibilities of all of these things are endless. Anyways, the point is that these things cause you stress, right? Stress doesn't just mean something like anxiety, it could also mean anything like anger, sadness, like let's say someone dying or something up, or it could be, let's as said, anxiety, or anything else which is causing you to feel in a negative manner. This means that all of these things are emotions that we do not want there, basically, and that is what you try to do. So the way you are currently coping with this is EBC, and this means emotion based coping. You are trying to solve for the emotions rather than something else, and that results in you solving for something like pornography, or it could be alcohol, or it could be junk food, or video games, or scrolling, and anything else which basically causes your brain, causes all of the anxiety and stress and whatever else to go away for a few seconds. This is a short term fix, right? However, the problem with short fixes is that they basically cause all of these things to not go away. These, in fact, will increase. Let's say you had a job assignment, those job assignments will increase and the current one won't be going away. Your friends are being toxic, you becoming more of a loser by using pornography and all of these things, and not performing as well as you could be, not having as much confidence in yourself as you could be. These become more toxic. Teachers also become more toxic because you're not doing your damn homework. Same with school, same with homework, all of these things, blah, blah, blah. All of these things end up being increased, right? And the way this works is that imagine you start with 100 mental points in the day, right? And this is time. So let's say you start with 100 mental points on a rough day, and you, let's say, are reminded of homework all of a sudden. So that would mean you take negative 20 damage in this regard, right? Negative 20 damage. And hence, what you want to do in emotion based coping is that you try to fix this by, let's say, what right here, and you try to fix this by a high dopamine, high endorphin, high chemical activity in your brain. So, this could be something like, let's say, we're at 80 right now, and you go all the way from there to here, and this causes you to stay on a relatively high level for a few minutes, but the end result is that, wait, yeah, so the end result is that you end up going lower than you actually started. You end up going lower than you actually started. So let's say you started at 100, right? And so rather than 100, you end up at 90. And this is your baseline now. This is the one that will continue until you again, let's say, are attacked by another thing, attacked by, let's say, your parents shouting at you, screaming at each other, and hence you want to run away from pain again. So what you try to do is, again, you do this and then you return, and then you're again going down, and then you do that and you do that and you do that, and it continues to repeat until you end up like literally worse off where you started, right? I'm not good at drawing graphs and whatnot, but you get the point. This is a very short term activity and it's not actually solving the problem, right? And not to mention, this is also adding problems like addiction, right? And brainwashings about addiction, which is the biggest one that we'll be getting into. So, this is the key problem, emotion based coping right now, right? What you need to do is reinterpret stress as a method, as a motivator to work. So, stress means anger, sadness, anxiety. You need to take all of that. You need to see the reason behind that. So, for example, homework, right? Homework is the problem right here. So, what we need to do is solution based coping. Solution based coping means actually fixing these things that are right here rather than focusing on the emotions themselves. The emotions are not the problem, but instead the, what's it called, these problems are. So that means that you first start by defining them, right? Defining here means something like, let's say it's homework, okay? So we choose homework, and we see what kind of homework. We see the subject, so it could be math, right? And then you see what sort of sub-subject it is, so it could be trigonometry, and then you see what exercise it is exactly down to the T, and we see what exactly it is that we need to do. So it could be exercise 1A to 13B, let's say, right? And we do that, and let's say we get 10 wrong, right? So practically that's a failure. And what you need to do is see why you failed, right? So we need to see why you failed, and we need to define that. And defining this means, okay, maybe I don't know the formula, right? Maybe I haven't practiced enough. Maybe I should ask GPT as to why I'm wrong. Maybe I should ask my teacher or my smart friends. You're getting the point, right? All of these things will increase the way that you're doing it, will increase the quality of your work, and hence make you a better person in this regard. And overall, another thing is that I told you about the mental points, right? So let's say you again start at 100, right? This is 100 mental points, time, mental points, blah, 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 0, right? You start at 100 mental points, and as a result of you being reminded of homework by stress or whatever, you take 20. So now you are at 80 mental points. But because you did all of these things and there's no anxiety in your mind anymore, you can go back to 100 and maybe even 105 mental points. So what actually ended up happening here is that your baseline happiness increased by +5. This, if you continue to do that, if you continue to focus on your problems rather than the emotions that are being caused, will make your life better, right? This is what we need to focus upon. Unfortunately though, if it was as simple as that, like let's say our homework getting rid or our school problems getting rid, all of these things, those won't really be a problem. The problem is addiction and brainwashings. These addiction and brainwashings are hence another solution-based coping that we have to deal with. So let's say that we have to first define it, right? The brainwashings and the addiction are self-limiting beliefs inherently in themselves, and you need to get rid of them. That's the only way that you can make progress. So a lot of people want to, let's say, quit porn, right? That's the problem right here. That's why you've came here. And what people try to do is willpower. Willpower inherently is a limited resource, and it's not really meant to be used like this. And the way you think about willpower is like very, very stupid, and it is outdated. I'll have a picture up here right now also about why the willpower beliefs that you have are inherently stupid and outdated based on very, very faulty science. Anyways, willpower doesn't work. Same with blockers. Blockers work because we let them, right? We choose to keep the blockers there. We choose to delete them. We choose to turn them off, or we can choose to turn them on. This is why blockers cannot work effectively as a method of fixing a pornography addiction, because you do not address the inherent reason as to why you want pornography, right? Now, before it was as a method of emotion-based coping, right? We have fixed that to an extent, but the reason that there's addiction and brainwashing right now is because there's withdrawal symptoms, right? Addiction isn't something which is a positive. It is something when you lack it, it equals a negative. Lacking means withdrawal symptoms and symptoms which you have to deal with, which most people lack the understanding about it to do effectively. So this is what I'm trying to teach you. The point is that blockers don't work, willpower doesn't work. So what does work? Unbrainwashing, right? Debrainwashing. Debrainwashing means that you first learn about pornography and why it's addictive. You secondly learn about your self-limiting beliefs, right? So we'll just call it self-limiting beliefs, SLMB. Yeah. These self-limiting beliefs are the primary reason as to why we use porn, and these are stupid little beliefs, like which could be even based on things which are supposedly logical. For example, the logical beliefs that you may have is that it increases concentration, right? Or it increases your relaxation or anything else, right? This is basically very easy to solve, but you first need to understand why it's happening, right? So let's draw a pros and cons sheet. So we believe, for example, concentration or relaxation are caused by pornography. But what you need to understand is, firstly, Wait, where the hell is it? Yeah. But what you need to understand is that it doesn't happen because we end up losing our focus. We end up losing our happiness, our fulfillment because of pornography. So it doesn't improve our focus and anything else like that, because it only gives us a short term boost, nothing more, nothing else. And when it runs out, we feel negative. We end up worse off than we actually started. So if we started at 100 and for a little while we went to, let's say, 130, then at the end of the day, what our baseline happiness will be now, because of overstimulating our brain, will be 90, right? And so that's why pornography doesn't work. Compared to this, having something like solution-based coping means you start at, let's say, 100, you realize the problem or whatever, 80, right? There's also 18, I just forgot to write that. And then you go to 105, wait, then you go to 105, which is maintained all the way till the next day or the next few hours or even a few weeks. If you make this a genuine part of your identity, like I do my fucking homework, I actually stand up for myself, I do not take shit from other people, blah blah blah. If you start doing all of these things, then of course your self-limiting beliefs, your self-esteem, all of these things will improve. Anyways, we were talking about the logical beliefs that you have in by which people justify pornography. So for example, the basic ones I see are concentration and relaxation. So concentration does not work because it leaves you worse off than you started, and it does not improve you in totality, right? It only gives you a short-term boost compared to something like meditation. So concentration is not a benefit, it is a con, right? It worsens off our concentration. It doesn't relax us because it causes us to increase our cortisol, which is literally the stress hormone. It decreases our testosterone, it decreases our confidence, and hence pornography does not increase our relaxation. It only does so in the temporary realm because we let it. We believe it will relax us, and hence it relaxes us. It's a fucking placebo. So it does not relax us. And there's of course many others. Like for example, some guy said it fucking made him social, which is like how it's literally just decreasing your testosterone, it's decreasing your confidence. So what's the fucking point? You need to find out your own, and then you need to get rid of them. I have helped other people do this, and I can also help you. I've helped a guy who is now a national level golfer and a person who got 9 or A stars in his GCSEs and A levels and whatnot. So again, if you want help with this, because I have helped people find their self-limiting beliefs and make their process quicker and instead improve them and give them better beliefs, then join the coaching link in description below. Anyways, these are the logical beliefs. What we need to go towards hence after that is the emotional beliefs, right? Emotional beliefs are two things. So for example, it's running away from pain. This means you need to become stronger. You need to be able to take more pain, and hence that will make you less likely to go towards pornography or anything else. You need to go to solution-based coping rather than anything else like emotion-based coping, or trying to fix the emotion itself rather than the problem which is causing it. Anything else regarding pain is that you need to see why you're comforted by this. So a lot of people I have dealt with have had weird experiences with pornography in the youth. So for me, I started at 9 and I had a pornography addiction for over 9 years, and I just quit it 1.5 years ago with this 3-step method, by the way. Again, if you want coaching, link in description. I've helped multiple people. The thing about pain is that, let's say about, it could be something like trauma. Trauma in this context doesn't mean you were just hit by daddy or something, but something else like you discovered pornography at a very early age and it gave you something extremely violent or something, or anything else like that. The point is that your brain saw that and then it thought something like, okay, that's what sex is like, that's what it's supposed to be. And now you have this bullshit self-limiting belief that this is how you're supposed to pleasure yourself. This is how enjoyment is supposed to be. That if you enjoy something like pleasure, it needs to have some level of guilt, some level of shame to it, because that's probably the first way that you experience pornography and whatnot. So we need to get rid of trauma, we need to become stronger, and we need to see other emotional reasons, like there's a myriad of them and you need to figure them out yourself, or you could get my coaching. Other than that, last thing I'll say is mindfulness, right? So I said something about concentration. We need to find these self-limiting beliefs, right? SLMB, yeah. We need to find these self-limiting beliefs, and for that, we first need to see them. See these self-limiting beliefs rather than fall to the earth. And for that, we need to have some mindfulness, some ability to just perceive what's happening around us rather than constantly keep fucking acting on it. And this means, let's say that you have an urge, right? You don't need to act on it. You can just fucking listen to it. You can have a conversation with it. You can break it down slowly. But for that, you first need to separate yourself from the fucking urge. Here's an example exercise right now. Take a deep breath in, close your eyes, and think, what will my next thought be? You probably got distracted by some thoughts, whether it be counting as to how long it'll fucking take, or anything else like, oh, I need to do something like this or that, or you just had a urge or some crap, right? But the point is that you are not the thoughts. The thoughts are simply something the brain does, which is as normal as your heart beating or you listening to sounds. It's something which is not in control of you, right? And you are instead the observer, the silence, not the person who is in the video game character, but instead you are the person who is holding the controller. And when you start realizing that, and all of these things like the self-limiting beliefs of logic are cut down, all of these things like the emotional beliefs are cut down, and mindfulness, when you master that, you actually start to be able to see them, and hence you can actually question these things via ways like journaling, right? Or actually talking to someone who has an inkling or an idea of what you're going through. When you start doing all of these things, your happiness will increase, your confidence with girls will increase, you will become far more purposeful, and you will make far better progress in your life, and actually become someone who, when he looks at himself in the mirror, does not fucking feel shame about it. I hope you found this video helpful. There's again a coaching program down below. I will have a course there. There's multiple men with the same problem as you who are far ahead of you. And if you want any other advice, just join the coaching. And that's all. Cheers.